Okay, this is a review of our trading activity for Thursday the 13th, trading the December futures contract on the euro. This rectangle box represents a summary of the price action for the 13th. And so beginning the day, what we had to work with were prices closing just about at a level of interest here at 1 and 30.75 in and around that area. So we had prices run all the way up to it, and then we started to develop a little bit of a trading range in and around this area, trading above it and below it. So now let's look at the smaller time frame chart and see how this framework serves as our guide to trade this market today. So this gray dotted line represents that 30.75 area that I was speaking of from the previous longer term time frame chart. And this is the December contract on the euro. So prices are trading above the area very early in the session, and then shortly after the open, prices fell through the area and then came back up to it. What I'm looking for is to participate in a trend defined by lower lows and lower highs, or higher highs and higher lows. And here we're starting to see a pattern of lower lows, and if this area holds, lower highs. This area is actually right at the 30.75 mark, which could present itself as resistance for this price action. Again, it is an area of interest, and it can either be support or resistant. But these markets recognize, and they have for years, these areas that we plot on the charts from evaluating multiple time frames. And so we pay attention to them. And then we let the market confirm whether or not they're valid or not each day. So this is what we have as a framework today, this 30.75 area that we either need to trade above it or below it. If we trade down through it, we're looking for a way in which we can get short from it. And this area, if we measure from this pivot high to this pivot low, this retracement in here is about a 50% retracement of this push to the downside, which is another reason why I initiated a trade here. Once we started to see the price action confirm that this area might hold, and that this retracement of 50 to 61.8% would hold as well. The trade worked out fine, with the initial target being this outer 2 standard deviation band. There's about 10-15 points there, and this represents a very consistent move. This could very well fall off here, but we would at least expect to see this area in here, this 2 standard deviation band, and pushing a little bit further than this previous low. Just a nice consistent trade to take profits, get the day started. Prices retraced off of that 2 standard deviation band. Again, this rectangle represents about a 50 to 61.8% retracement. And as we continue to go here, we're starting to see the continuation of a downward theme. Lower lows, lower highs, and these lower highs fall at about a 50% retracement from the previous impulse move. So that really defines what we look for to participate in a trend, and we're starting to move away from this area of resistance. Getting short here again, taking it down to the lower standard deviation band. Again, picking up about 12 ticks very consistently. Now here we're starting to build a little different scenario. We pushed a little bit lower, and then we came up and started to go sideways a little bit. I did initiate a trade, but here we're seeing a little less momentum moving to the downside by virtue of not going proportionally lower here for this lower low. It's not an absolute. It's just something that we take note of, that there is a bit of a change in the rate of change here as we're progressing downward. Okay, we did get short in here. We kind of dilly-dallied a little bit here for 5 or 6 minutes or so, and then we started to go down again. Took the trade off at the lower standard deviation band again, and we didn't quite take out this low. Did by a few ticks ever so briefly, and then it started to snap up. That's often a precursor. This pattern that started back in here is often a precursor to a change in trend. So obviously not a lot of indicators on the screen. I have a moving average here. I have 2 standard deviation bands in here just to kind of give us an idea as to where the channel is and in which direction the trend is going. But just by reading the bar action itself, this time-based chart, you can begin to see that these markets do leave clues. And as we started to see throughout the day, that this area started to hold here a little bit, and we started to work our way back up into this range. Now, this area that we started off initially, it can often serve as an area of attraction, support, resistance, and we're trading. When we start to progress to it, it often acts like a magnet, and it provides a target for us for any trades down the road. So here we see a progression from this lower low up to this pivot high. I measure a 50 to 61.8% retracement. I see a small pivot in here, and I take this trade with the target being back up into this 30.75 area, which worked just fine. And so we exit the trade here at the resistance that we've been plotting throughout the session. And isn't it interesting? We see this day after day. That price action stops were running here clearly, but we're unable to sustain getting through. So unless and until we get through this area or stay under it, but here we just kind of went sideways saddle on this thing for a period of time before we started to move to the upside. So now we're coming back down into this area after a pretty significant retracement. So again, we don't have a solid progression of higher highs and higher lows to work with. And we end the session at around 11:30 or so, which is about the time that we stop trading the euro. That space is the Eastern Standard Time. So only a few trades today, 4. But a profitable trade. But the most important thing about this video and this review is how these levels that we predetermine before the market opens, how we're going to trade it, what we're going to look for, and then let the present market action confirm whether or not this framework is something that we should follow.